that date that the state was created some 45 years ago. And so we want to look at Ogun State at 45 strides in development. And we have two guests in-house right now. We have an elder statesman, Mr. OSITELU, OYENUGA, OYEYEMI. Welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you very much.
And of course, the Chief of Staff to the State Governor is also here with us, ALHAJI SHUAIB, SALISU. Welcome to the program. Good
morning and happy anniversary, citizens of Ogun State.
On that note, we want to say welcome to the studio once again and a happy celebration to every one of us. Let me start with Mr. OSITELU, OYENUGA, OYEYEMI. You were at the very, very beginning when Ogun State was created, and you were one of those civil servants who were moved from the old Western states to the new created Ogun State. How was it like transiting from the old Western state and becoming Ogun State?
Well, we give glory to God, looking back 45 years back. It's all glory to God for the marvelous things He has done. When Ogun State was created, the first thing we experienced was that those of us, I was an administrative officer in the old Western state. So as an administrative officer, our head then, OGUN Chief A.A.K. Degun, summoned all the admin officers to a meeting, and we had permanent secretaries, 10 or 11 of them, and told the admin officers that we would have to go to Abeokuta to look for accommodation. It was a challenge. And he told us that we will see him here. So we took up the challenge. We were pairing ourselves, 5 officers in a car. If we use my car today, tomorrow we use your own car. Wednesday another person, Thursday another person, Friday another person. So we are circling like that, looking for accommodation. Abeokuta at that time had not grown. I mean, I know Abeokuta very well because as a person, I was coming here. So we were coming from Ibadan. Every working day, we look for accommodation. If we see any vacant accommodation, we'll go and report to our SSG and HS, Chief A.K. Degun, and of course, the Permanent Secretary, Minister of Works and Housing. So we did that. We also had to look for housing accommodation for officers who are coming. Abeokuta was not as developed as it is today. We thank God that it has grown. So we did that, and we prepared the background for the people coming from Ibadan. So by the time our members came, everybody was excited that, look, we have our own state to build, and we must rise to build it. And actually that was his charge to all officers when he summoned us, told us that, look, we are here for a purpose, to build this state, and we must build it. And we thank God that we succeeded. With 10 or 11 permanent secretaries at that time, the ministries were small, carved out of the Old West. We started well. The admin officers then were very, very few. We were extremely few as administrative officers. So everybody was active, everybody was excited, everybody was at alert. So it was a great challenge, and we took it up. And looking back 45 years, I would say we have cause to thank God that He helped us to develop Ogun State to what it is today.
Okay, Chief of Staff, now you are the current chief of staff, and you must have inherited some development years over years over years, and now Ogun State is 45 years old. What did you meet, and what has been the success stories so far?
Thank you. First and foremost, let me re-echo the sentiment expressed earlier today by the governor of Ogun State in his statewide broadcast at Prince Dr. Abiodun MFR, and that is to congratulate all citizens of Ogun State on what we have achieved as a state. Indeed, Nigeria would be less without Ogun State. In all spheres of human endeavors, our sons and daughters continue to hold the edge, and therefore he wants me to congratulate once again all citizens of Ogun State. Secondly, and more important perhaps, is to also express his sincere appreciation to all those who gave their yesterday to have this today. And I consider the real privilege and honor to sit side by side by one of those people who migrated, if you like, from Ibadan to Abeokuta 45 years ago, MR.OSITELU. On behalf of His Excellency, I thank you and the rest of your generation who have toiled and did all you did for us to have at the state. And that's why later today we are having a colloquium, and we are also bringing one of the veterans, Prince Babatunde Oshokoya, who also moved from Ibadan. He became head of service. He was SSG. He was also going to speak to us later today. So first and foremost, we must continue to extol all these people, appreciate them, because without those efforts, without the sacrifice of moving from Ibadan to Abeokuta on a daily basis, without the sacrifice of those who made accommodation available in Abeokuta to accommodate the new secretariat, so to say, we probably would not have what we have today. Now, if you ask me what we have inherited, we're proud inheritors of legacies that are difficult to replicate in any other state. We are inheritors of sound education that have put our state in the map across the world. We are inheritors of sacrifices of people from the very first governor, then Lieutenant Colonel Said Balogun, the first military administrator, through the first civilian governor, Olabisi Onabanjo, and all the governors in between who did one thing or the other to ensure that today that we are celebrating is indeed something that we should perhaps. So we have inherited all of those. But beyond this inheritance, you can inherit something and damage it. You can inherit something and the only thing you talk about is to keep talking about the past. What are we doing to ensure that 45 years down the line, 50 years down the line, that generation as well will also be able to look back at this time and say, oh, the inheritors of these proud legacies, there are people who bequeathed even greater legacies to us and that we are proud of. And that's why the building our future together agenda of this administration comes in. And we focus on those 5 development pillars that we believe will not only deepen the legacy we have inherited, but will extend it and also ensure that our state continues to occupy top spot in the community of nations. And that's why we talk about infrastructure to enable community, maybe not from Ibadan to Abeokuta to start a new state. We're doing those infrastructure. We're doing social welfare and well-being in terms of health, and that's why the health insurance scheme is starting this month. We are also looking at housing scheme, and that's why you see the Dagon housing estate that has been named after the man who led administrative officers to Abeokuta. But as you go back now, you also see new houses coming up at Kobakwe again to ensure that the social welfare and well-being of our people. Education is very key. Without the education, those admin officers couldn't have been picked to come and provide leadership to a new state. So we also recognize that we need to improve the public education in Ogun State to ensure that we create new crops of Oshitelus, Deguns, Simeon Adebos, Oshokoya, and Sofio Ogun, and many more like that. So we recognize that education is very important, it's very central. So we are deepening that, of course, in terms of youth development. When you look at Baba OSITELU here, it's very youthful. Even 45 years after they are here to midwife his state. So they were in their primes at that time. So just take 45 out of his age, you would know that they were in their prime of ages then when they came to start a new state. So we also recognize that our youth must also learn from the spirit of sacrifice, from the spirit of partnership, from the spirit of collaboration. It took some level of patriotism and zeal for people to exchange their cars and say, you go today, we go today in your car, we go tomorrow in your car. Our youth must also learn one or two things. So we are also providing the opportunity, the ambience for our youth to develop. And of course, agriculture. All of those developments that we're talking about here, they were funded, they were powered by the revenues from agriculture. Whether you talk about cocoa, whether you talk about WNBC, and of course, the OGTV, the OGBC that came out, literally speaking, from the WNBC. It came from the proceeds of the investment of the Awolowo regime in Western region and Western states to power some of these developments. So we are proud of today, but we are working hard to ensure that the future is safe and proud. And we are proud of the future. And that's why the theme of the colloquium is Ogun State, the legacy of a great future.
Okay, let's go down memory lane a little bit. And of course, remember some nostalgic feelings. Thank God, if you look at the studio, you can say everybody here belongs to the three generations of what we talk about. The likes of Pa, OYENUGA, who were adults then, and of course, actually started the state when it was created, now an elder statesman. And people like us, Chief of Staff, who are of the almost of the same generation.
Me, I'm Sorosoke generation.
I'm not of the same generation.
I'm not the generation of you.
My own generation.
I mean, our own generation, who were very young when the state was created. And of course, some of them who are also here, who were born into the state. And Charity, I don't know which one you belong to, but I'm sure that, yes, let me start from you. Where were you? And what was the feeling among people like you when the news came that Ogun State has been created in 1976?
You know, the interesting thing is, 1976 was my first year in secondary school. So when we had the broadcast that we now had in Ogun State, it was initially too clear, but we knew there was an euphoria of some form of a new identity for us. And you remember this was a period that October 1st used to be celebrated with some pomp and pageantry. We were given flags, we would line up. But what the feeling that came to us then was that, hey, here's something that we can relate more intimately. We didn't have to go to Ibadan or directive coming from Ibadan, even in terms of education policy. We now knew that, oh, and for me, who was also a young boy growing up in Abeokuta, understanding that, oh, I am not from a town that is state capital. So we ran around to even find out, how are they going to start? Where are they going to be? So what does this mean for us? It was an euphoria. And then, of course, the radio fusion then, that used to be in the corner of houses. I mean, we're broadcasting information that we now have Ogun State. It's a merger of Egba division and Egba province and Ijebu province, and the capital is in Abeokuta there, you know. And I remember then that when a later General Basojo, as then was, came to Abeokuta, and we also understood that, oh, it was from, I mean, it was from here. It was like, oh, yes, we not only have a head of state, Ogun State also we have an identity, and Abeokuta also had, if you like, a capital of a sort. So, and we also began to feel that things were moving faster because decisions were also now coming from the locality. But you must also give it to those who came them from, you know, permanent secretary were not many, as I mentioned then. So when it was at a time, teachers in particular were semi-god, so to say. So you could imagine permanent secretary. When we hear permanent secretary then, you begin to see a reflection of the inheritor of a district officer of the old. So it was an euphoria. It was a sense of a new identity. It was something to spur to say, hey, we have something greater to look forward to in Ogun State. So it became, and I also remember it became the topics of debate in our secondary school then. I mean, the new Ogun State, what does it mean for us? So we began to envision a new state. And I think, and so proudly speaking, so you could now imagine where you now took the jump form. I now need to put state of origin. I now put, for the first time you are filling an official form, and you put Ogun State. It was really great, and that's why getting to the university as well, particularly University of Lagos. That's why I was one of the first set of people that formed the National Association of Ogun State students. It was in the 4 year from that creation that was still with us and legal onto us.
MR.OSITELU, on the 3rd of February 1976, it was pronounced that Ogun State was created. A few days after that, the person that pronounced it was assassinated in a military coup. Now, between that time and the period of stability that Obasanjo now came to now said, okay, all these pronounced states still states, what was the feeling like? You people were preparing to move after the creation. Then the coup happened. What was the feeling like? Share that experience with us.
Well, first and foremost, we were all highly excited in Ibadan that we had our own state. We coming home. And of course, the Ibadans, they didn't hide their feelings. You people, you go. You have been dominating us. Go to your state. And when you think of it in Ibadan in those days, I mean, the Western State Civil Service was highly potent, highly powerful, highly productive, highly reputable, and nationally recognized. The crust of the people doing the business there were from Ogun State, largely, Ijesha, then Ekiti. Those are the key regions. So we were all excited. But when the coup occurred, it was a sad experience. Everybody was sad, including my humble self. We were really sad. So they killed the head of state? But we were civil servants, we were not politicians. So we could show moral support to the cause of the people. And we knew that.
Were you not afraid that the state might not materialize?
No. I was not afraid. And if I can talk on behalf of my group, I'm talking of administrative officers. That's the group I will talk of. And of course, I had friends and colleagues in other cadres, agric officers, education officers. We knew ourselves.
So you were still confident that despite the coup,
we knew that the state yes, we knew that the state would take
newly proclaimed state will come to materialize.
Prepared to get it off the ground. So we knew we are not afraid. I mean, I was not afraid. We bring our cars, drive in the morning, park at government house. It was the DO's office there. I mean, we were the DOs. I was a DO. I was a DO, sorry, in Adwekiti, divisional office, where there was no DO. So, as an admin officer, I was the one in charge. I had a lot of people, other ministries, with whom we became a committee under my leadership. So we were not afraid. We were eager, we were excited, we were ready that we're going to make it work.
Okay, let me start with Chief of Staff. Ogun State is known for so many things. We are known for agriculture, we are known for industry, trade, commerce, and every other thing. And one particular thing we are also known for in Ogun State is politics. The likes of Chief Obafemi Awolowo were at the forefront of politics. Do you think this politics has brought so much development to Ogun State, looking back to the 45 years we've been created?
Absolutely. Citizens of Ogun State have been in the forefront of every noble sphere of human endeavor. And when you talk about political leadership, how do you take out the largest concentration of people who have provided leadership to this country? This is the only state that has produced Chief Awolowo that remains a reference point in public service and public leadership, not just in Nigeria, but even beyond. You talk about a state who has produced General Obasanjo, both as a head of state and civilian head of state. This is the home state of Chief MKO Abiola. This is the home state of the interim president, Chief Shoneko. No other state could boast of producing all forms of head of state for this country. Even when you talk about Western region and Western, whenever there was a crisis, even in the then Western region, they look forward to Ogun State to provide leadership. Talks about Chief Mayekodomi of St. Nicholas Faith. Even the national legislature, you find even our own brother here, Dimeji Bankole, having provided leadership to the House of Representatives. Currently, the number two president, the vice president is also from here. Now, you're asking me, what are the gains of some of this leadership? It is when you don't have it that you know that there are gains of them. If you look at the fact that the education we are talking about, this leadership position that we're talking about has brought us a number of federal presidents here in Ogun State because of the influence of some of our sons and daughters. Maybe perhaps Ogun State would not have been created as we have it if a son of Ogun State was also not part of the decision making at the time the military administration, the military regime in the country wanted to create a state. But beyond politics is also the fact that the people who had excelled in various colleges, they have not only excelled to give the state a renown, they have also provided some sort of inspiration to the younger elements. And that's why when you think about that, the first lawyer in the country was from this state, the first Chief Justice. So little wonder you find a number of Ogun State indigenes moving into law because they could see some role models in the people who have come before them. When you also look at accounting, I mean, the fact that the first chartered accountant in the country, Williams, is also from here. Then you also begin to see a string of accountants. And you talk about Tony Olakuni, the first chartered accountant. You talk about Bolako Foriji, the first woman to be CEO of a bank and a public company. When you also move into other spheres, whether you talk about in terms of liberal arts, art and literature, of course, the fact that a Nobel laureate is also from here, provide inspiration to a younger element. So when you see citizens of Ogun State, not only in Ogun State institutions, whether you talk about LASU, a student who had just made history there, being from Ogun State, whether you talk about other spheres, you need to recognize that inspiration from all of these new achievers is coming from the fact that when they look at their state, and they say, this is my state, we have produced president. This is my state, we have produced first accountant, the first lawyer, the first chief justice of Nigeria. Hey, I got a legacy. I had stand on the shoulders of some giant, and therefore I need to also do something extraordinary. So it is not just about the titles that they hold, a former president, it is the inspiration they provide. These citizens are no longer just individuals, they have become brands, they have become national icons. Indeed, in Ogun State and in Nigeria, when you compile the list of national icons in this country today, it is at the list of who is who from Ogun State. So even when you talk about civil servants, don't forget that Simeon Adebo at a point provided leadership to the civil servants, not just in Ogun State or Western region. He became a permanent representative to the United Nations from the civil service. So therefore, when an Ogun State citizen, younger ones, you pick the brochure about Ogun State, and you see all of this, you ask yourself, I got a proud
past, a legacy that I need to deepen. So it is not just political power that he wield, it is the influence, it is the inspiration, it is the facilitation, and it's also giving that Ogun State branch that is unique. And that's why anywhere you go, when you say you are from Ogun, they give space for you.
That means there is a template every Ogun State citizen must follow.
There's a template that every Ogun State citizen, even in journalism, the number of veteran journalists in a country, they either pass through OGBC, OGTV, or they train at Moshood Abela Polytechnic, or formerly called Ogun Poly. Why? Because this is the cradle of journalism. In 1859, the first newspaper was produced in this state. So, if you are studying journalism, you ask yourself, this is the state that two journalists have become governors. Bisi Onabanjo, Olusegun Ojoba, and they were not journalists on the street. They were at the apex of their. This is the state of Gbolabo Ogunsowo that first edited a Sunday newspaper that sold over 1 million copies. So you have a template, you have a legacy, and that's why the theme of this colloquium, Ogun State, the legacy of a great future.
Okay, Baba OSITELU, you were one of those who made policies, and you follow the policies of the government then. So what was it like to follow a new policy for a new state? Was it cumbersome? Was it tiring? Or was it just a smooth thing to do when you started?
Let me explain this, that when we got to Abeokuta, sincerely, because of the challenge we had received from our leader, late Chief A.A.K. Deku, there was no closing time. Offices would open 7:30, close 3:30. That was not for us. I can say that with due respect, I could recollect that not me alone, all our colleagues in all cadres, we have stayed long in the office, about 9-10 p.m. before we close. And the following day we were there. Because it was a call that, look, this thing must work. If we did it in Ibadan, and we were commended as a state, those who did it then, this is our own state, we must do it and make it to shine. And that's really what happened. So we were not afraid, we were not timid. In actual fact, there was a shortage of residential accommodation to the extent that initially the state government put buses on the road between here and Ibadan. People will come from Ibadan in the morning, come and work here. At 4 p.m. they return. The following day, they do that 5 days a week. And those of us who didn't get accommodation, all you have to do is to get a room. That's what I first got in Abeokuta, a single room. Left my family in Ibadan. And if it became extremely necessary, I would go to Shagamu to sleep. I'm from Shagamu by bus. So I had worked there in Abeokuta, then drove myself to Shagamu to sleep. The following morning, 7:30, I would be at work. And it was not me alone. It was that was the metro. People came from Ota. People came from Aito. People came from Ikene, from Iperu, from Ishala, because there was no accommodation. So when we started getting one room or room and parlor, then we were sharing until we now developed Abeokuta to what it is. And sincerely, after our initial effort, it's an initial effort, I really want to thank God that those who came after us succeeded in expanding the quantum and the volume of work and development. I mean, Abeokuta have grown. Sincerely, like I said, when I was coming, I was surprised about this EDTV road. I've not come this way possibly 2 or 3 years. So coming today, I was surprised. So many hold up. So Abeokuta has grown sincerely. I can say that because in those days I can tell you the major roads that were tarred in Abeokuta. I can say that. All other developments, they met us here, and we are part of it. So we have.
Baba, before Akiwu, Baba, I want to ask you, who formulated the Ogun State anthem? And was that the first one formulated?
Yeah. Well, that's a good reminder. That's Dideke.
Okay.
The first name I'm trying to... Dayo Dideke.
The father of...
the father of Mrs.
Family Secretary.
Former Farm Secretary. That's the father. So he came. I mean, he was among those of us who came from Ibadan. So it was he who sat down and said, Isheya, Omo Ogun, Isheya.
Because the burden was so much then.
Yes, and
okay.
I mean that was like a call
to service.
Call to service. Immediately you hear Isheya, you can't be complaining. You can't be complaining. I've not eaten. No. You want to eat? Take some. Go and take your lunch. Come back and sit down in the office. So, we have cause to thank God that Ogun State had grown, and sincerely, looking back 45 years, even when the politicians came, like I said, we were civil servants. We did our best, and the politicians came, and they took over. And sincerely, the quantum had grown, had expanded, and is still expanding. So it's an effort that I would want to commend the politicians too for improving on what we started. They didn't discard the foundation we laid. They built on it and improved it until it is now. And those who are coming after us, we will. You see, on occasions like this, I will remember our elder statesman, Pa B.O. Okubejo. We call him the last man standing. That's is our boss. He's our boss. I mean, he retired from the civil service about 36 to 37 years ago. He's still alive. He's our boss. We have an association.
Sorry to cut you. Very interesting to all let you know that Baba is still in the service of the state. Baba Okubejo is the chairman of the Governor's Advisory Council.
Okay, that's
so she's serving 45 years after.
That's you can imagine. I mean,
yes,
yes, he's still there. So he's our member. He was our chairman, but he's now our trustee of Association of Retired Heads of Service and Permanent Secretaries. And Papa Ubejo is an authority on public administration. Those of us who read public admin, we drop our hat for him.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much. You've actually answered the question I wanted to ask you. That is talking about just opposing between, because the state has evolved under the military regime and civilian regime. Thank you very much for that. Time is no my friend. Let me come back to ALHAJI SALISU. Kolokov is starting the celebration from the state government perspective, but we're having a one-year celebration for this 45th anniversary. Quickly, can you break it down?
Yes, you remember I was here about a month ago, and I told you that we're going to have this celebration, and it's going to take, it's a year long. Why is it a year long? For two reasons. We want to deepen the consciousness of the current generation about the proud inheritance that has been bequeathed to them. Sometimes when you ask them about who is Simon Adebo, they don't know. Sometimes you ask them who is Awolowo, they may not remember. Sometimes when you say Olabisi Onabanjo University, they probably think of one wealthy man established in the university. So why are we doing 1 year long? First and foremost, COVID has constrained the social gathering we can have. Therefore, we need to spread out the programs. So now we have had a state broadcast today, earlier today by the governor. That today we're having a colloquium, and then we'll also be commissioning some projects along the line in the course of the year as part of the celebration for the 5th anniversary. If you see the newspaper pull out today, we have listed some 45 great achievements of the current administration. But beyond that, we want to be able to unveil some of those projects formally. Then we also think that the current generation of the youth, they need to know about their past. So we're going to also involve the youth and the students in some of the intellectual excursion, if you like. So there will be some quiz competition, some essay writing down the line, grade by grade, to let them know. I mean, they can write about the theme that we're using for the colloquium today. We can tweak it, and then we're going to be engaging different sections. We're engaging, for instance, the likes of Baba OSITELU, Baba Kuboyejo, and some of those. We're identifying 45 of those pioneers, and the governor is going to be meeting with them sometimes. I mean, COVID allowing, because they're advanced in age, we need to protect them. Yeah, sure. And the governor will also be interfacing. We're choosing 45 of them symbolically to say the 45 pioneers will move from Newdawn. So this is also part of the celebration. So we are unveiling the program in the course of the year to deepen the consciousnness about it. But more important is to let the current generation know that when they hear OSITELU, they hear Okubejo, they hear Degun, they hear Soviet Ogun, they hear
what they symbolize.
They know what they symbolize, and they draw inspiration from that, and they are also conscious that they are worthy ambassadors of a state like no other state.
Thank you very much. That's how far we can go as far as this next segment of the program is concerned. We've stayed at 45 strides and development. I want to thank you very much, Pa OSITELU, OYENUGA, OYEYEMI, one of the pioneering workers, officials who moved from the Western state to actually start what is now known as Ogun State, the Gateway State. And of course, the current Chief of Staff to the Governor, ALHAJI SHUAIB SALISU. At least I know that you still continue to come here. You still have cause to be coming here, especially during this course of the 1 year celebration. I want to thank you very much for having time to come. So we'll take a break quickly because we still have other segments as part of the celebration of OGUN at 45. Go nowhere. We'll be back.
Ogun State was one of the 3 states created from the old Western state in 1976. Activities marking the 45th anniversary of the creation of Ogun State begin on Wednesday, 3rd February 2021, marking the 45th anniversary of the